Alright, so we'll start sitting today. We won't stay sitting for long, but it's a good place to start. You don't have to sit cross-legged. You can sit on your shins or maybe up on a block, whatever suits. But just pausing here, and before we do anything else, just take a moment to close the eyes. I know this is a video, so it's very visual, but just establishing that internal focus first and foremost, and then the visual recording is just a guide to keep you focused on this practice. But the practice is really just feeling what's going on right now from head to toe. Feeling what's going on will naturally include the breath, so bring your focus more specifically to that phenomenon of expanding and contracting. Deepening the breath will naturally help improve the posture in the spine, and as well, improving the posture in the spine should give you more space to breathe. So there's a positive feedback loop there between a longer spine and better breath, and creating deeper breath, improving the spinal posture as well. And then just briefly check in with the way you're holding the neck and the head. And the only reason why I can't do this the whole time is because I'm talking. But make it a habit to gently lift your tongue up to the roof of the palate, that'll help activate the deeper neck extensors, so you're not just trying to hold yourself up at the back of the neck. And that'll also naturally create that ha sound, that little breath control, that little narrowing, halfway closing the glottis. From here, open the eyes, play with the shoulders for a moment, just settle in. And then I'm going to cactus the arms, so my elbows are really square on either side, taking the time to make sure they're not down here, they are up here. You're just super right angles, nice boxy shape. And then I'm going to squeeze the elbows together and then bring them back behind. As far as I can go without forcing, without arching, without curling. Just mobilizing the shoulders around that neutral spine. Still lifting the tongue up towards the palate, like you're picking yourself up from deep in the back of the throat. I'm really fully committing to squeezing, so I'm really closing the elbows in the front, and I'm really hugging back. I'm just testing how far I can go. Good. And then from here, I'm going to frame it out. The fingers are going to turn down and then turn back up. Generally, the downward action is going to be a little more challenging. Some of you might have a better range of motion here than I do. It'll be challenging to keep the elbows nice and square, nice and T-shape through the humerus, through the upper arm bone. I'm starting to wake up the back of the rotator cuff. So I flare the elbows out and fingers point down. And already, just subtly, you might notice a deeper demand on the breath. So using that technique of consciously slowing your inhales and exhales. So we're welcoming the heat in the shoulders, but we're also keeping the pace of the practice nice and cool. Again, personally, I don't like to count reps. I'm going to stay here until I feel I'm losing the quality of movement. Welcoming the burn in the shoulders. And if you need to drop out and shake the arms, then please do. And then join in again. And just kind of testing the patience of my shoulders, welcoming the burn that's developing across the back of the rotator cuff. And eventually, when you're ready, I'm going to frame up. I'm going to bring the elbows in again. I'm going to pull one elbow across to gently release everything that was just working. And then I'm going to take it to the other side, pull the elbow across, releasing everything that was just working across the back of the shoulder. And circle it out. And then finally, I'm going to bring the hands behind the head. Thumbs are pointing down, and thumbs can kind of massage into the back of the neck, around the ears, the neck, the jaw. This is a really interesting area from a connective tissue point of view, where the skull and the ears and the jaw and the neck all kind of intersect. So my thumbs are just bringing attention to that area, and I'm almost picking myself up taller. And gently cupping the skull, picking myself up, lifting the tongue up to the palate. And then I'm going to twist. I'll turn to the left. You can go left or right, whatever suits. I'm only twisting as far as my core will take me, my obliques will take me. And I'm making sure my hands aren't pushing my head down. So I'm really still picking myself up as I twist. Now my back arm is going to move to the back of the room, so that the action of the shoulder is feeding this rotation. And then I'll come back to center, take a breath here, picking myself up. Then twist to the other side in your own time. I'm going to use the exhale, squeeze to spin out that exhale. Still using my arms to pick myself up. And then if I'm turning to the right arm reaches back. Fingers really spark back. So I can only move into this twist as far as my muscles will take me. My arms aren't shoving me around. And we'll come back. And we'll release down. Roll out the shoulders. Good. So noticing the difference between that and then say, taking your arms up overhead, come back to the first side. So I'm going to come back to the left because that's what I did first. Now my arms drop. My hand is on my knee, my back hand is on the mat, and notice how now the arms can kind of pull you around. There's nothing wrong with that. It's useful, but knowing that it's easy to just kind of belly flop and melt and not actually use the engines of strength. But if I have both, I'm using my obliques to twist, my shoulders are activating into the twist, and then the hands are just that extra little wringing out, like you're wringing out a dish towel. Kind of get the best of both. Make sure the neck is happy and tall. And then I'm going to come back, arms up, twist to the other side. So one arm naturally grabs the opposite knee, one arm falls behind. I'm going to draw myself up tall, make sure I'm actually using my muscles to twist. And then the hands, that leverage from the arms just gives you the last little bit of wringing out and assistance. And the neck comes with, the eyes come with. And gently square back to center. So now I'm going to take the left leg behind. And I'm just going to play with 90-90. So this is called 90-90 because there's sharp 90-degree bends all over the place. My ankle especially is 90-90, so I'm going to high five my foot. My knee is 90-90. And the back leg is also 90-90. But for now, we can be a little more forgiving. So if sharp 90-90 on the back leg is awkward, you can bring it forward or bring it back. But eventually, it's going to be nice and square. So now, I'm going to take my hands back up. I'm going to draw up tall. And I'm going to squeeze towards that back leg. So for me, towards my left leg. Now there's a little more interesting conversation going on because my pelvis isn't neutral. And the left hand reaches back. I'm going to bring that hand back behind, square up. Now rotating away from the back leg is going to be a little more challenging. You can feel all these muscles on the outer hip up the side of the waist start to fire up. If this is super awkward, you can put a hand on the floor. But hopefully, as I turn to the right, my right arm can reach back. And then I'm going to come back to center. And before I leave this position, I'm actually going to lean forward, hands on the floor, and just play a little bit. So we've been kind of sharp and alignment based, which is good, but I'm just going to take a little free movement, moment to loop the shoulders and shake off the head. And maybe if you feel real flexible in the hips, you're welcome to bow as deep as you want. And maybe instead of just bowing and dropping, you might bow and snake the spine from side to side, or twist and look from side to side, but just experiment. Then I'm going to come up and switch legs. So we'll play with 90-90 on the left leg. So a nice way to remember the alignment point here is that my shin is horizontal with the top of the mat. I'm real square with the ankle and the knee. It's just as boxy as possible. For now, the back leg can be boxy-ish. There's other movements that need more precision from that back leg. But for now, I'm going to take the arms up, float and lift up through the ribs, picking yourself up with the base of the tongue. And my right leg's behind. I'm going to turn to the right first. If it feels super awkward, you can put a hand on the floor. And then my right arm is going to follow that action. And notice the way when the arm activates, it starts to synergize all the muscles up through the back and the side that are activating that twist. And come on back to center, square up nice and tall. And then squeeze away from the back leg. It'll be a little more challenging, a little more heated. You'll feel the muscles of your side tying into the hip, tying into the IT band. And then I'm going to take my left arm back. If possible, you might need to put it on the floor. I'm maybe reaching back. And then finally, before we leave this position, I'll square forward, hands on either side of your mat, just kind of melting and playing. Breathing and exploring. First, it'll melt into the hips. So this doesn't have to be the deepest fold over a pigeon leg ever. Just gently saying hi. I'm going to roll up. I'm going to bring both legs forward. And since we have awareness across the back, nice long spines, activated core, I'm actually going to wake up the hands first and then we'll go to where we're going. So let the legs be comfortable if they want to be straight, if they want to be bent. I'm going to take the hands forward and I'm just going to work my grips a little bit, consciously heating up the muscles of the hand and the muscles of the forearm. So as you stay here working your grips, you'll feel the forearms heat up just as much as the fingers themselves. Just leave them here to heat up for a while. This will help support the wrists. This will help make for more intelligent hands, forearms, elbow stability, rotator cuff stability. There's a strong correlation between strong hands and healthy shoulders. Take those hands out to the side. Take the hands palm face up. If you need to stop and shake out, stop and shake out. My forearms are definitely starting to feel it. If you have real strong forearms or you just really want to attempt it, take the arms up overhead and keep working your grips. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. And then give them a little shake out. I'm going to offer my palms forward, flex into the fingers, wrist, forearm. So the reason why I chose to do that there is because the next step then is to bring the hands around behind. And I'm going to place the feet about hip width apart, about a handprint apart. So my hands are a good 1, 2, 3 spaces back. Notice how the fingers are pointing at the body. And you're just going to walk on the hands a couple times. And each time I pick up my hand, I'm going to loop Pick up a hand and loop. Pick up a hand and loop. As I do this is going to stretch out the wrists. So this is stretching those muscles that were just gripping a moment ago. And also continuing to use that energy up in the back of the shoulders that we started waking up earlier. So I'm going to press, look to straighten the arms, bring the feet in, not too close, but not too far either, and just boost up to your first tabletop. Now, if the feet are too close, it'll be awkward, and if the feet are too far away, it'll be awkward as well. So just kind of play with your proportions until you feel that you've got a good, solid footprint. Drive through the heels and boost up. Drop your head back. Good warm up for the hands, shoulders. Waken up the core. Really push through the heels. Use the hamstrings and the glutes to boost the hips out. If it hurts to drop your head back, just keep the head looking forward at your knees. And slowly melt it back down. Good. And I'm going to take the feet a little bit wide, and you can come up on your fingertips and just windshield wiper from side to side for a moment. Or take any little chill movement you prefer. Good. Then I'm going to frame the feet back up about a handprint apart. 1, 2, 3 hand spaces back. Press, so look at least for straight arms and a straight spine. Boosting up, even better. This time I'm going to keep looking at the legs. And I'm going to rock forward and back. So notice as you rock back, when my toes come up and my heels are digging, I can really feel that digging, that pulling action. So there's loads of like hoisting forward with the hamstrings and the glutes as you heel dig forward. When I talk about that heel digging, wake up the posterior. And when you're ready to come down, when the wrists have had enough, you really feel like you've got the action there, go ahead and relax. I'm going to bring the feet together, knees fall out to the side, and just roll out the wrists. Good. And again, one more here. Bring the hands 1, 2, 3 spaces back. Push down. Step. Boost to a tabletop. Now really think about shifting your weight from one foot to the other. I'm going to shift into the right foot first. And I'm going to pick up my knee. So notice I'm trying to kiss my knee. And then I'm going to kick to the ceiling. If you just immediately reach up to the ceiling, it's not very controlled. Push through your 3 contact points, boost up. And then release. I'm going to shift and really plug in that left heel. Hug my knee first. This is one action. And then kick up to the ceiling. Second action. Feet on the ground. Drop it down. Roll back for a second. Just play with the hands overhead. Take the feet a little bit wide. Windshield wiper out. Or take any kind of loose massaging moment you'd like. It's a quick way to heat up the core. The posterior chain. And just a quick way as well to demonstrate the way digging the heels fires up the hamstrings and the glutes. So we'll use that in our standing work today. Go ahead and roll around to sitting to all fours, or through sitting, I should say, to all fours. Let's take a moment here. Set up the hands. And lift up into a downward dog. Pushing the floor, spreading the shoulders. Drop the head, pull the hips up and back. And pedal off the legs. And so, from downward dog, roll up onto the tippy toes, curl the belly, surf forward into your plank, head reaching forward, spread the shoulders apart as you push the floor. And press back to dog once more. Use dog as an opportunity to wiggle out in between those planks. Up on the tippy toes, curl forward, surf into a plank, set the plank, take a breath here, and press, roll back to dog, taking the opportunity to wiggle out, shake off the head. 1. Roll to plank. Stay here a little longer if you can. You can always drop the knees if you need to. Thinking about the intelligence in the hands, the flexibility in the wrist, the strength in the forearms and the shoulders. Nice free neck. It's strong but sustainable. You should be able to hang out here. One more breath. And then make your way down. You can drop the knees and melt if you want, or keep the elbows in close as you slowly resist gravity all the way down. Just point the toes. Wiggle the fingertips out for a second and just play. So these nice loose little cobra variations, the hands are out so the arms don't take over the action. And just bringing awareness and feeling up into the spine. You can kind of wiggle this out as you like. And out. Roll the shoulders, peel up. And out. There's a couple more here, warming up that spinal extension. And really getting that sense as if you were picking yourself up through that ha sound in the back of the throat. Roll the shoulders, peel up. Thumbs in, down by the floating ribs. Grip, pull and peel, roll yourself on up to upward dog. Arrive here for a moment, savoring the length through the front. And dive back once more to your downward dog. Good, so putting that all together, take your version of rolling through plank, upward dog, downward dog. Can make it strong or gentle. It might be vinyasa style, it might be hatha style, it might be ashtanga style. But you can make that for your own. And we'll all meet up in downward dog after a couple breaths. And take the right leg up into the air. Come up onto the tippy toes. Zip your belly curl, step into the hands. I'm going to drop the back knee, peel up. Bring the hands behind the head, and again, kind of pick yourself up nice and tall, lifting through that little ha sound in the back of the throat. Bring your foot forward and heel dig a couple of times. So notice how I'm pulling myself forward. And then using that, step, really stack the knee over the heel. Make sure you're contracting the back of the hamstring. You can take your arms up. But just for today, just to play, keeping my thumbs aware of this interesting space here, I'm going to pick myself up, and I'm going to see, can I pick up my back knee? And I'm going to keep that heel plugged in. So I'm thinking about a few things. I'm thinking about picking myself up tall and sinking into that front heel. Maybe the back leg gets longer. One more breath. And then I'm going to melt down, step on back. So right leg up to the sky, three-legged dog. Both feet come down to the floor as you paddle off, downward dog. And then switch sides, take your left leg up. Way up on the tippy toes, zip and curl, step into the hands. Rock back, roll your way up. I'm going to take the hands behind the head. I'm going to inch that foot forward. So I can really get into that heel dig conversation, pulling with the hamstring and the glute forward. And then stepping in, picking myself up just as intently. I'm going to pick up the back knee if I can, staying low and deep in the lower body, picking myself up with the upper body. and the alchemy of the breath traveling between those 2 points. There'll be a temptation to keep floating up as you stay here. This is a little easier. Sink deep, pull into that front heel. One more breath. And then I'm going to melt it down. Hands on the floor. Kick the left leg back the way you came. Back up to the sky. Both feet on the ground as you wiggle it out. And again, it's totally up to you what you make of this phrase, rolling through plank, upward dog to downward dog. And we'll meet up. Once again, finding downward facing dog. So from here, take the right leg back up into the air. Way up on your tippy toes. Hug, curl, step your foot into the hands. Notice how your back heel is free to turn. And I'm going to follow that suggestion to turn. Bring the right toes in, and I'm going to walk the hands around to the right side and just play with opening into a forward fold. Again, I'm not really interested with straight lines. Just want to massage out. If you're very flexible and you're already warmed up, you can carve straight lines through the legs and drip the head towards the floor. Please feel free. Don't feel like you have to force a shape. And then from here, either evolving through the spine or coming up with a flat back looking forward. Both are safe options. You're going to take yourself up to standing. I'm going to turn my right knee forward. And again, I'm going to play with that heel dig. For now, I'm just going to leave the hands on the waist so I'm not distracted. But getting that pulling forward, really activating the posterior chain in your poses. So again, for years, I was here just burning out my quad, not using the back of my leg. So I assume there's probably some of us out there doing that. Reach back, inch your back foot back, heel dig forward. So you're sharing the work with the whole circumference of the thigh. Up through the throat, wide through the shoulders. Nice and spacious in your warrior two. One more breath. And that back foot, when you lift that heel, it's like a steering wheel. Lifting the heel pivots you back around. I'm going to pause and put the left hand on the floor. Pull your right hand up your shin as you twist in the opposite direction, spreading the shoulders, looking up to the ceiling. Your right knee is in front. Hug your right knee towards your chest. Use your inner thigh. That'll soften this back hip back here as you twist open. Pivot back around, both hands on the floor. Kick up to the ceiling. Putting the right foot on the ground, pausing in downward dog, and we'll play with the second side. I'll turn so I don't turn away from you. Your left leg's going to come up. You're going to roll step into the hands. Back heel spins in, which pivots you around. So think of that back heel as like a steering wheel. Pivoting into your forward fold. Taking your favorite variation here. Personally, for me today, just kind of snaking from side to side is feeling good. Maybe looking for a sharper, more traditional posterior Padottanasana is what's in store for you. And eventually, finding your way up out of this fold, turning your left knee down the back of the mat. Just leave the hands on the hips as we work the mechanics in the foot, which will work the mechanics in the shin, and then try and work the mechanics of the leg into the hip, digging the heel to wake up the back of the leg. This will also, if your knees hurt in lunging positions, this can really counterbalance that effect. And then eventually setting, flying out, up through the throat, wide through the shoulders, down into the legs. And as you set your eyes over your left hand, you're just going to stay and breathe and feel, worrying less about parts and pieces, hopefully feeling a little more integrated in the pose. Oh, one more breath. And when we're ready to turn, the back heel leads the way. So notice as I lift my heel, it turns my whole thigh, it turns my hip. You're going to turn and put the right hand on the floor, pulling your left hand up your shin as you twist towards the left-hand side. We have that activation in your upper back and in the shoulders. We know how to both twist from strength and use the arms to help assist that twist. Left knee hugging into the chest, which will also help to assist the twist. And eventually pivot back down, both hands on the floor, kick back up to the sky, pedaling off your downward dog, taking your vinyasa, or maybe taking rest. I'm going to flip around. You might be doing a plank, upward dog, downward dog. Good. So further to this theme, and then we'll kind of move on a little bit. I'm going to take the right leg up, roll and curl step into the hands, rock back, peel up, take the arms up, just palms to face, thumbs to face each other, or thumbs to the back of the room, palms face each other. I'm going to dig that heel forward as I step in. Maybe the back leg is looking to sink back a little sharper this time. Up through the throat. And then I'm going to lean, and now we're really kind of turning up the heat on that right hamstring, right glute, as I dig myself forward. So I'm lifting here, and yet I'm sitting into it. Keeping a sharp lightning pose up in the upper body, eyes up, fingers reaching, heating up that leg. We'll stretch it out in a minute. Really rotating the belly button square, so slightly winding the inner thighs. We might tend to wander off to a diagonal somewhere, so keeping it as square as you can. One more breath. Heavy in the heel to wake up the back of the leg. And then I'm going to melt. Put the hands on the floor. Pick up your back leg. So this is going to stretch your standing leg. And if the hamstrings are tight, your knee can be bent and you'll still get a powerful stretch. If you're more flexible and you can straighten and bow into standing splits, then feel free. But notice how suddenly your left leg is really starting to work. Hamstrings and glutes, picking up that leg. Keep the belly square. So this is a different pose. I'm keeping the belly square, stretching what was just working. And come back the way you came. Step down the back of your mat, frame your hands back. Push the floor, kick up to the sky, and pedal off the feet. Just noticing how downward dog releases those muscles that we were strengthening. It's a nice contrast to all the forward folding we tend to do in a yoga practice. Take the left leg up, way up on the tippy toes, zip and curl, step into the hands, rock back and roll up. Palms and biceps to the ceiling, up through the ribs, up through the throat. Dig that knee forward. So think about how you're loading into that front foot. Back leg reaches back. Squaring the hips forward. And then turn up the heat on that leg. Leaning forward, consciously stepping into the heel. You can even check. Pick up your toes a little bit. See if you can play with your toes, which means you're really plugging in the heel. You should really start to feel the burn in the back of the leg. Belly is supporting as well, so it's not quite a back bend, but really flying into like a lunge chair pose, lunge lightning pose. And if you want to stay, stay. If you need to bail out before me, bail out before me. You might have more endurance here, but starting to find the sweet spot. I'm going to lean forward, hands on the floor, pick up the back leg. Now I'm transferring the muscular focus to lifting that flying leg. Stretching what was just working now in my standing leg. Keeping the belly square so the stretch doesn't change and lose focus. Shaking off the head, so this is not a warrior three. Then come back the way you came. Plant the hands. Kick up to the sky. Pedal off the legs. Totally up to you. It might be plank, upward dog, downward dog. It might be time to take a break. Take a sip of water. We'll all meet up here in downward dog. Good. So we'll come back to that standing work, but squat mobility is really key. And usually we think of squat mobility as softening into the glutes if you're tight in the hips. But we're going to maybe use a prop, because I'd love to get the heels on the ground. Okay, so we're going to come down, and you may or may not need a prop for this. It depends on how comfortable you are in a full squat. So a full squat is heels on the ground and bum below the knees. And even if you're kind of up here, that's fine. If you're deep down, you might be even more comfortable here than I am. If it's not there today, don't worry. It took me like 2 years to get a full squat back. So if you're on your path, you're on your path. It'll get there. But if this doesn't look like an option, it might be more available if you shim. It doesn't have to be yoga blocks. It can be books, it can be a rolled up towel. In fact, a rolled up towel is probably something you have handy and will give you a good amount of height. So this is just a little wedge if there's a limitation dropping into a full squat. If this doesn't suit you, then don't worry, skip to the next part and you'll work on it in the future. Hopefully you're good either here, heels on blocks or towels, or maybe heels all the way down to the floor. And once you're here, I'm going to lace the hands, I'm going to pistol grip, I'm going to lift through the back of the throat, and I'm going to drive those heels and pick my hips up. Notice how I'm still below my knees. Yeah, so this is cheating. I'm still nice and deep, and then I'm going to sink back down. And we're going to go for 5, 4, 3, heels. One more, and this time we're going to stay. 5, 4, 3, 1. Now all the way down. Pedal out the feet. Release what was just working. Good. And gently brush the blocks to the side. Or towels or whatever you're using. We'll probably use them again. Just bring the hands forward. Bring the feet back. Pedal off your dog. And take the right leg up again. Roll and curl. Step into the hands. Rock back. Roll up. Palms and biceps rolling open on your way. Dig your heel forward so we're heating up the posterior chain and we'll stretch it out more effectively. Then I'm going to lean forward, coming back to that lightning pose shape. And this time I'm going to step into warrior 3. So that back leg is still at attention. My fingers reaching still at attention as I load and reach, floating into warrior 3, really focusing on keeping those hips square, putting all those skills together. Bowing hands to the floor, kick up to the ceiling. Sliding back the way you came, hands frame your lunge, push the floor, kick to the sky. Both feet on the ground. Taking the left leg up. Roll and curl, stepping up into the hands. Rocking back, rolling up. Palms and biceps turn on your way up. Sink into the hips, dig that heel forward. We're really starting to wake up intelligent foundations in the legs. Lean to the diagonal. 50% up, 50% down. Get as long as you can, and then float it in space as you step and find warrior three. Reaching forward, sparking back. Keep rolling the belly square to the floor. Big breath here. Melt it down, hands to the floor, kick to the sky. Slide back the way you came. Your hands come back. Slide to frame the foot. Push the floor. Kick back up to the ceiling. Paddle off the legs. Taking the right leg up. Last bit of standing work here. Roll and curl. Step up into the hands. Rock back. Roll up. Alright, so setting your stance. Heel digging forward. Sweep palms and biceps up. Sharpening into your lunge. Now this time, I'm going to load forward. And I'm going to step up into funky tree here. Recognizing the shape is a little different when we were sitting on the floor earlier. But I'm going to lift my knee, and then kick it forward. Strong moment here. Good. Collect that foot back in. Last little warrior three moment. Reaching forward, sparking back, rolling that thigh in, rolling that belly square. Melting hands to the floor, all the way down, bowing into your fold. Sending your weight back, hands come back to frame the right foot. Kick up to the sky. Both feet on the ground. Last bit of standing work on the left leg, kick it up. Roll and curl, step forward. Rock back. Peel your way up, palms and biceps. Up through the ribs, up through the throat. Sink and sharpening in, digging that heel forward. And this time I'm going to lean forward, step, float, and fly. Bringing that knee in. Upper body reaching up, lower body rooting down. Lift that knee. This is one action. Then kicking forward. Separate action. Spark out in all directions. Got one more breath. Gather it in. Keep the belly square as you transition. Pivot on that intelligent footprint. Sparky fingers forward. Sparky foot back. Melt the hands down to the floor. Step it on back to dog. Frame your hands. Left foot kicks to the sky. Pedaling off the legs. Last opportunity to roll through plank, upward dog, downward dog. And then this time, we're going to use a squat just to melt. And just to chill out and drop into the hips and the glutes. So, walking your hands back, bringing your feet forward. However you want to get here is totally fine. I'm kind of rowing my elbows against my shins to draw the heart up. Again, the blocks are here if you need a little shim underneath your feet. Keeping a little boost up through the pelvis. Keeping that lift through the back of the throat. So often here, we're kind of hunched here. Surprisingly, your upper back has a lot to do with your squats. Gaining this range of motion back is so good for our hips, core, spine, digestion, pretty much everything. As I said earlier, if it's tight today, don't worry, we'll get it back. Segue on down to the floor. So if you can melt and softly land on the sit bones, great. If it's a more complicated path or a clunky path, don't worry about it. I'm going to take the feet a little bit wide. Toes pointing up towards the sky. Reach up overhead. So again, draw up nice and tall. Lean, so I'm keeping my upper back fired up. So lean, lean, lean. Notice the spark in the feet, notice the spark in the hands. There's intention here. Someone's picking you up by the wrist, pulling you across the room. So firstly, you're just hinging from the hip sockets, seeing how far it can go. Then hands to the floor. Then playing with maybe elbows dropping, maybe head dropping. But don't force anything. If you're up here and you're getting a good stretch, perfect, that's your stretch today. If you're further out, you're further out. That's a result of practice and perhaps naturally open tissues. We're real heated in the hamstrings and the glutes, and this is a great place to melt them out. Our focus is still there, our intention is still there. And then slowly rolling back up, rolling back up. I'm going to come back to that 90-90 shape that we started in. And we're really going to use it for a slightly different purpose now. So here's 90-90, except now, I'll turn this way so you can see it a little better. Now, I'm going to point the toes, and now that heel's going to come in close on both the front foot and the back foot. Yeah, so it needs a different name than 90-90, actually. But what I'm going to focus on, if my right leg is in front, my right hand's going to fall. So notice how I'm rotating away from this left hip. We've been really forward folded, really strong in the hips. That's kind of what this practice was about. But here's something to counter it before we kind of settle down. So I'm going to push the knee. I'm going to squeeze the backside and roll the quad open, hip flexor open, rolling, rolling, rolling. And for now, I'm just going to reach across the room. Notice how I'm looking over the right shoulder. The knee presses down, the fingers spark across. And I'm now using the backside to open the front side. And come back. Again, push the knee, consciously open through the hip flexors, reach back behind. Let this roll through your spine and your tissues, however feels the most beneficial. Go ahead and wiggle it and test it out. Come back, and then this time finally, you're going to travel up. So I'm going to push through the knees, I'm going to boost up, boost up. You might just stay pretty neutral. You might start to take it into more of a back bend. You might decide to take that flying arm, bring it behind your head, like you're carrying the weight of your own skull, and notice the way that will kind of self-adjust your shoulder deeper into the pose. And slowly pivot back around, come back to center. And we'll come to the second side. So again, instead of boxy square 90-90, which is grateful for some stuff, this pose I'm going to point the toes, bring the heels in. If my left leg's in front, I'm falling to the left. Yeah, so I'm going to fall to that leg. I'm moving away from that right leg, right hip. And I'm going to push through the knee, squeeze, and slowly spin around. And come on back. I'm going to push, squeeze, roll through. Make this work for you. Notice how the elbow is raised as I reach. And come back. Push, drive up this time. And maybe staying pretty neutral like a side plank. And if your supporting shoulder agrees, you might pivot it open. You might just stay here, or maybe taking your flying arm to the back of the head, cradling the weight of your head and noticing how that adjusts your shoulder. And gently unravel. Good. Come back to center. Take any movements you like for yourself. Maybe wiggling out in a downward dog, maybe pausing the video and taking a longer action. Maybe you're inspired to keep practicing. Please follow that inspiration. From here, eventually, having followed your inspiration and maybe being ready to come down to stillness. Stillness might look like sitting in meditation or melting flat across the floor in Shavasana and final relaxation, whatever you feel called to take today. Start to consciously shift gears, more solely focusing on that internal experience or the physical self-experience, less on the technique of the postures and activation and release. The more we open, the more it requires us to drop our filters. We're not looking for anything, we're not pushing anything away, we're just kind of opening to what it's like to melt after your practice today.